my old community college, or the places where I don't know, where I would sneak out to, whenever I would be mad with my parents, to go run or to go play soccer. So it's nice to be home, and to be able to be with family, even though what has brought me home this time has not been the most pleasant experience. At the same time, it's always great being with family. So I'm very, very happy, to have been connected with Kevin for this last few weeks, and to know more about the organization and what you do. And it's really exciting, because whenever I thought about, okay, how do we have a conversation? How do we talk about this idea? I right away, I knew that it didn't need it to be a speech. It didn't need it to be a message of some form, but instead it needed to be more of a conversation, and it needed to be more of something where I hope that in this next few minutes, not only do you see bits and pieces of my experiences, but I think that my goal today is for us to be able to have a little bit more clarity in some of the things that you are doing, because oftentimes as first generation college students, it's very, 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 very confusing. But at the same time, it's very, very, very exciting, very, very exciting. So as you go through this journey, and as I have gone through my independent journey, what I have learned is that obviously it's not an easy journey. It's a very challenging journey, especially as a first generation student, especially once you get to college, or once you're in high school, or once you are trying to become a student leader, or trying to get involved in the community, or you're trying to go back home, or you're trying to pay for your next semester of tuition or books, or whatever it is that you're experiencing. It's not an easy journey. And what I want to come across out of this conversation, I just want to know one thing. And I think that knowing this is what really has helped me be where I'm at today. And I'll talk about the things that I've done. I'll tell you a little bit about my roots and my families. But I think what I want you to wrap yourself around this entire conversation is that you never being alone, you are not alone, and you will not be alone. Although we are walking a lonely journey. Just think about the irony of that. You've never been alone. You are not alone, and you will never be alone, even though you are walking a lonely journey. Because we're walking a lonely journey. But even though right now you only see myself, you only see one individual, in reality, within me, there are mentors, there are educators, there's family, there's people who have empowered and who have inspired me to be able to be who I am today. Because life wasn't always like this. I'm from Honduras, and I migrated to the United States at the age of 13 years old as an unaccompanied minor. So I understand what life is in a different country, where you don't have the luxury of being in school, but instead you are work, or you're with family, trying to make ends meet. So it's a very different lifestyle. And then you come to the United States, and then in the United States, you start facing issues of not knowing the language, or not understanding the system, or having family who lack immigration status, and they face certain immigration difficulties, discrimination, and all of a sudden you start within that, you start growing up within that environment. But at the same time, you feel a sense of responsibility, of, like, for example, I remember whenever I first came to the United States, my mother would wake us up like around 5 in the morning, and we would ride a bus, a metro, with her. And she would ride the metro, and at about 5:30, we would get dropped off. And we would get to school really, really early, really, really early. And my mom would keep on going with the same metro, because my mom wanted to drop us off at school, but she needed to be at work before 6. And she would ride that metro all the way, and she would drop us off in school. And to me, those memories of understanding that, man, like, my mom is on her way to school, my mom is on her way to work while she's dropping me off in school. Understanding that, like, allowed me to value the little things that I was given throughout life. because coming from a different country and all of a sudden being at a community college, going to Texas A&M University and finishing a bachelor's in math and science, finishing a master's in English as a second language, completing a PhD, and all of a sudden your name changes and I'm a doctor. Like, sure, all of that is fancy and great and all, but it's been a process. And that process has been a very difficult process. It's been a very heavy process and a very sacrificial process, filled with pain, filled with suffering, filled with tears, filled with hope and dreams, but not only of mine, not only of me, but dreams and sacrifices of my parents, by dreams and sacrifices of my community, by dreams and sacrifices of the people that came before I was here. And understanding that helped me graduate from high school, even though I was undocumented, even though I was still taking in ESL classes, even though I didn't know if I could go to college or not, even though I didn't have the ability to be a normal, regular student because of all my limitations. And then you add upon that being a first generation student, right? Like I show up to my community college. In fact, the community college that I went to is right across the street from where I'm at right now. And I remember whenever I first went into the community college, I had to take like a college entrance exam. And all of my English classes were developmental writing, developmental reading. The only class that I was, ironically enough, the only class that I tested college level was college algebra. So that was the only class that I was good at. But when it came to language, my language was still being developed. But somehow I made it to a PhD. 13 years and a half. I'm only 33 years old. So within my journey, I just want you to know and understand, like completely, that although in your lonely journey, you feel that your family doesn't understand you because they can pay for tuition, right? So they can't understand. Or your family doesn't get it because they always want you to go home and always stressing you out. Like your family doesn't give because like they're always not understanding fully. But that's not true, right? That's not true, because oftentimes our parents have made so many sacrifices for us to be able to be where we're at, whether it was an aunt or an uncle or a grandmother or a grandfather who made some crazy sacrifices, whether it was in the United States or outside of the United States, so that we can have an opportunity of being a first generation college student. So although there are many challenges associated with being a first generation, there's also a very beautiful responsibility associated with it. And that is to be able to change the trajectory of generations to come. Like you are that domino. Imagine, like, for example, right, there's a domino piece, and that domino piece was like my great grandmother, and she wanted to have dreams, and she wanted to do X, and she wanted to do Y, but she couldn't do it because of lack of resources, or she couldn't do it because she didn't have the support, or because of the country where she was in, she didn't have the right opportunities to make that dream a reality. And then came my grandmother, and my grandmother maybe was smarter than previous generations, because the previous generations wanted their children to know more. So maybe my grandmother had more opportunities. Maybe she was able to do things a little better than her great mother, but maybe it wasn't good enough, right? And then came my mom, and my mom was like, trying to figure things out, but then within her own challenges, she wanted to go to school, but she was not allowed to go to school because during that time, women didn't go to school in Honduras, right? Like they did tortillas, they went to go get la leña, they washed clothes in the river, but my mom had that dream, right? And she couldn't do it. And then came me, right? So me being where I'm at doesn't mean I'm the one who made it. There has been this force, right? There has been this energy way before me that catapulted me and empowered me to be able to be where I'm at. And that is a beautiful responsibility. You don't have to go through the 13 years and a half to be able to come to that conclusion. That's what I want you to understand from my personal experience, that even though we walk a very lonely journey by being first generation students, we've never been alone. because the sacrifices of our parents, because the sacrifices of our grandparents, because the sacrifices of our communities, of our mentors, of advisors, of teachers. You are that very small population of students who actually made it. So that in itself is a responsibility. So be encouraged as you keep going through your journey and reflect on those sacrifices every single time you feel you can't keep going no more. Because whenever I felt like I couldn't keep going no more, I kept remembering whenever my mom told me, Jose Luis, like, I'm gonna grab a mop so that you can grab a mic. Jose Luis, I'm gonna clean offices so that you can work in one. And now that I have the ability to work in an office, I don't even let sometimes maintenance get my own trash because I take my trash out because of the humility that my mother instilled in me. And it is those same values that as you go through your life, they will shape you and they would mold you. So know that the challenges that you're first facing as a first generation student, they actually give you value and strengths that otherwise cannot be found. You cannot give those things unless you understand what it is to have them. And oftentimes, being first generation students, we're trying to get through the next semester and the next semester and the next semester. So there is confusion, there is clutter, there is this cloud of thoughts that you just don't know what's going to happen here and there. I just want you to know that you're not alone and you've never been alone. Just don't wait too long to continue to realize that there are people of power in your life who can help you get there faster. Example, if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, right? Like, you should not just be thinking about succeeding academically. You need to start thinking about succeeding at the professional level. Like, that in itself, it's an entire monster. Networking, negotiating a salary. How long are you going to be at your next job for? Right? Like, what kind of industry do you want to work in? You can't let the clutter or the confusion or the survival moment stopping you from succeeding and planning strategically to get there, but you're not gonna get there unless you have people around you who continue to remind you that. And that's my second point. The first point is that you're not alone in this journey because your family is with you, because the people that like your roots are with you. You see what I mean? They might not understand the process, but that doesn't mean they don't care. They care so much, like my dad. Like, my dad didn't go to my soccer games because as an electrician, he would pick up another job after work, recycling cans and recycling cables so that he could sell those on the weekend so that I can have an opportunity to be able to have books and tuition. So whenever I was at home and the lights were on, he wanted the lights off because they were wasting energy. So those little values, man, now I'm starting to understand them from a very different perspective. Because I understand that they wanted to save a little bit of energy so that they could put it towards a little bit of books for me, so that they could put it towards a little bit of groceries, because they were learning, they knew that the number one priority was my education. I bet you that your family, that your uncles, whoever it is that you have in your family on your corner, they brag about you. And they talk to like their co-workers and they're like, oh, mija, she's really smart, like my daughter, she's in college, like, oh, my son, even though lo miras así, even though he looks like that, yeah, he's smart, like, he's like, they brag about you. Like, you bring honor and you bring pride to our communities. You do. And I tell you that because I see that in my mother every single day. Every single day, there's pride in her, knowing that the achievements that I have made continue to reflect her. Because your achievements should not reflect you, should reflect the people that have come before you. And that's what's beautiful, understanding that your achievements are the results of their sacrifices. Now, that's the past. In the present, how do you try to move forward? You're not alone. You've never been alone. You are not alone now, and you would not be alone. Right now, you're like, man, this dude is talking nice. He's saying X, or like like I gotta eat, or I'm about to go to the gym, or I gotta, I like them because like I want my points, right? Like I'm trying to get that scholarship, or like there might be reasons why you're there, or maybe because is that motivation doesn't last, right? Motivation does not last. Motivation can pump you up, right? It's like many people, like you can drink a cup of coffee and then you can go to the gym, but it's not gonna last you for 3 days. It'll eventually go away. So what you gotta do is that instead of trying to always find motivation to survive, is create systems that can support you to get to wherever it is that you're trying to get. So if you're in law school, right? Like if you're in political science and you want to go to law school, right? Like you need to create a system of support that encounters an attorney, or that includes an attorney, or that includes people within the law world, so that they can continue to mentor you and support you and connect you. Because as a first generation college student, academic achievement is not enough. It's not enough. But because we've never reached there, we're so excited about getting there, right? But once we get there, we're now trying to figure out what's next. And we don't know what's next. What's next is the professional world. What I'm saying is that you can transition as you're going through school now, so that once you get there, you understand your value. There are many people that are like us, first generation students who graduate from college, have college degrees, but they don't have a network, they don't have systems of support, and they don't understand the value of their college degree. And what happens? They go back home and they go back to jobs that do not necessarily take into account their education. So all of the investment, time, and resources that they put into that education has been put on hold. And the reason why is because that transition takes time. Begin that transition as soon as you possibly can by creating systems of support, by finding mentors within your prospective fields who can support you and can guide you and say, oh, think about this internship, or think about this opportunity, or think about this institute, or think about this conference, or think about this research. Those people, those mentors, they would make it upon themselves to be able to support you, not only within the moment, but throughout life. And these are people you trust. These are people you believe in. These are people that have been there for you. So know that if you've never been alone, and you're not alone now, and you want to succeed, you're not gonna be able to make it alone. So even if you are not the extrovert, right? Even if you're not the public speaker, even if you're not the one that likes to stand in front of people and shake hands, even if you're the one, behind the scenes, creating the graphics, or, or writing the outline, even if you're that person, well, guess what? The rule still applies to you. You can't do it alone. And if you are the extrovert, and if you are the public speaker, and if you are the one who thinks you know it all, guess what? It still applies to you. You can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. It's going to take a collective group to be to where you. So find a of support to be able to make sure that you set yourself. It's not a PhD that I business, or that we're working with school districts or helping students get to college. And although all of that's fascinating and beautiful, the most beautiful thing about my life is that I'm a father, and that I have a very beautiful daughter who's 16 months and whose life depends on me. And if I don't change her pampers, my PhD is not going to go running and change her pampers. I have to do it. So I have to understand that this is not just about me, that this is about the future generations. So now that I'm a father, I understand a little bit about why it was that my parents wanted to save a little bit of energy. Why was it my parents didn't go to my parent meetings? You see, I'm not with my daughter right now because I'm with you, because we have to take certain sacrifices to be able to provide an example for our families. And that in itself changes you when it's no longer about you. So whether you have a family right now, or whether you plan to have a family, or whether you're going to have a family, just think about the concept of creating a generational impact. How can you create a legacy way past you being in this world? Many of you 5, 6, 7 years from now will have a college degree, will graduate, will move on in life, will become married, will create a family, will adopt, if that's what you choose to do. And the decisions that you make today will create a very powerful impact in the future. So make sure that you set yourself up, that if you graduate with your bachelor's degree, think about doing a master's, think about doing an MBA, think about law school or medical school, and think about doing it without stopping. People often talk about the concept of experience, and experience is extremely well. But in my own experience, I am where I am, not because of my story, but because of the combination of the power of the degree and the painful experiences that I have lived. 33 years old with a PhD. But I come from a very humble beginning of a mother who used to take like about 30 minutes to wash her hands with anti-grease soap because the grease wouldn't even come off. Of a dad who would come home and he would like not even be able to be hugged or kissed because he had insulation on his body. You're not alone. The sacrifices of your families are with you. There are systems of support that you have, professors, mentors, advisors. But moving forward, know that this is not really about you, right? That you have responsibilities to take care of. That you being in a college classroom or being in a college campus doesn't make your responsibilities go away. I bet you that for many of you, you are in college because you're trying to take care of medical bills that are going to accumulate once you start taking care of your family. I bet you that many of you are in college because you want your mom or your dad to stop working, because you've seen them working too much. I bet you you're in college because you're trying to be able to maybe tell your parents don't rent anymore and buy them a house. And you know how I know that? Because that's what I want too. Because I'm a first generation too. So be encouraged that as you go through your journey, you're the ones who out of the probabilities, in a positive sense, are very odd because they are very unique. So don't think of being a first generation student as a challenge only or as a set of obstacles, or think about it from a deficit model, thinking going down that, oh, poor me, poor this and poor that. But instead that it took a lot for us to be where we're at. So let's value it. And let's understand that, yeah, we're first generation, but then comes third generation, fourth generation, third generation, fourth generation, fifth generation. And the beautiful thing about the number line is that it goes all the way to infinity. So that's what I'm talking about with the concept of generational impact. Just like the domino, once it falls, it didn't just impact me, but it impacted my mother, and it impacted my grandmother, and it impacted my generation. It's a new impact my daughter. It has impacted my sister. My sister went to Texas A&M University as well and graduated with a psychology degree. My fiance also graduated from Texas A&M with communications and journalism. My mother went back to school and started taking ESL classes and GED classes. My dad is in the process of looking into real estate because he wants to open his own business. So just know that your academic achievement is not about an individual sense of achievement, but that instead that there needs to be a collateral impact in your family. that your cousins are looking at you, that your little brothers and your little sisters, like take them to Texas A&M to tour the campus so that when they go into a university, they don't go through way before you went through it. And that's what I really hope that this conversation leads into understanding that there is a transition. And graduating from college, and graduating from college is not it. That's not where it stops. That's not where it stops. So make sure that you set yourself up, and that you're setting yourself up by thinking about your professional jobs, and that you're thinking about postgraduate schools, and that you're seriously understand the worth of your degree. Because the moment that you graduate from Texas A&M University and you get that stamp, Google how much you should begin working, how much you should begin getting paid, and try as much as possible to stay within that range, if not more. Don't make the mistake of not utilizing your degree when entering the professional world. Instead, start that transition now that you're in college by building those systems of support, by empowering yourself, by staying grounded in family, y echándole ganas, and knowing. But I'm excited. I'm excited to connect with y'all. I can't wait for things to, like, in a sense, get back to normality, so that I can have the opportunity to meet y'all. Like Kevin was saying, I had the opportunity to do some pretty cool things at Texas A&M, some student activities. That's really what kept me going and kept me engaged. I got to Texas A&M back in 2008, and I spent 13 years there. But during my undergraduate degrees, yes, we co-founded several organizations, the Honduran Student Association. We work with International Student Services in putting together the International Week, the I Week, or like the World Fest. That some of those, we were very active in those communities. But of course, the one that I'm very passionate about was the Council for Minority Student Affairs. That's my heart. I'm a dreamer. So whenever it came down to providing opportunities and defending the rights of dreamers, that was a strong collaborative vision. So I'm still very connected with them. I was just with them at SCOLA, at the student conference on Latinx affairs on campus. But I'm excited. I'm very excited to meet you and to have shared some of my experiences, as well as some of the things that I'm going through now that I'm realizing at my age, with a PhD, that mean much if you don't mean well, right? So you first have to mean well and understand why it is that you're getting your education. And that is because we owe it. We owe it to the people that came before us. And we owe it to the people that are coming after us. But we also owe it to ourselves to be able to make a difference that has been tried to be made for generations and generations and generations. And thankfully, you are now that person who gets to create that impact. So muchas felicidades, congratulations. I tell you that because I know the journey. I've seen the journey. And I know that at the end of the journey, being a first generation student is going to be extremely valuable rather than just going through it. Because once you see the next generations also going through it, you'll know that you were the one who sparked that. And that nobody can take away from you. And I'm talking about in generations, like in generations. No one, like people would always go back to you in the history of your family. If there was a book there's an entire chapter about you and how you created that impact. And for that, I congratulate you and I respect you and I admire you. And I wish you nothing but the best as you keep going through your academic journey and as you also enter the professional world, especially right now during this pandemic, or whether you're going to continue to stay at Texas A&M and build your own network and continue to stay associated with first generation Aggies. I wish you nothing but the best. But also, Kevin, thank you so much for for connecting. And the thing about it is that this is one thing, but I want to stay connected. I want to be a resource. So if there is any way that I can continue to be here, know that I'm here. But if we have any few minutes, of course, I want to take maybe some of your comments, some of your questions, or some feedback as far as what did you think. But for me, that's what I really, really wanted to hit home. We're not alone in this lonely journey.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Dr. Zelaya. That was some really inspirational words, and you kind of put it into like a new perspective for me, honestly, because like I never really took into consideration like I knew like the previous generations have like sacrificed a lot for me to get here, but I didn't know like that accounted like I didn't take into perspective like that energy is what brought me to my decision into going to college, achieving the life goals of like wanting to help out my parents, wanting to like just just be a better person in general, and just like change that generational wealth gap that exists between me and the previous generation to be have like a smaller gap between me and the future generation. Um, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself, put it in the chat for you. I put it in the chat for Dr. Zelaya to see. But I'll go ahead and just kick things off. I was just wondering what were some of the challenges you had when creating like a student organization, like either like time management or like just like emotional or just stress, any like stress related challenges that you face while creating student organizations at Texas A&M?
Yeah, I mean, so it's almost like it's almost like one of those double-sided swords, right? Like it's a really, really great thing to be involved in student organizations, but it's also a really bad thing, right? Because like it can consume you, especially if you're involved like in everything and everywhere. Like one of the things that like I actually like I was really, really involved. Like I was involved in student government, I was involved in CMSA, I was involved in I mean, you name it. I was really, really involved. And I think that what happened whenever we were creating an organization, it's that there was a lot of confusion and there was just we were just doing things, right? It was like, okay, we got an event and the organization was planning an event, and then we were going to somebody else's event, and then because those people came to our event, we now needed to go to their event, except that like 15 organizations came to our event, so now we need to go to 15 other events. So I was always on the go, to the point that some people that go through very severe stress develop what is called shingles, which is kind of like a cousin of chickenpox. And I developed that. My entire body broke, like broke up because of stress. So when you tell me like, oh, how difficult or what were some of the things that you went through, or how was it during the student organizations, I didn't take care of myself because I also had school. I neglected family. Like I stopped going home because on Saturday we had or events, right? So like exams, right? Like they didn't become a priority anymore because I could be at the annex, just drinking coffee and energy drinks, because I was too involved, too involved, too involved. But on the other side, being too involved also helped me out because I created a family. I was able to understand that alone, that there are also other people who were also in my same shoes, but they were not brave enough to say it, or they were not strong enough to deal with it, or they were not aware enough to be able to change it or want to change it. So noticing those things made me want to do more. And that's whenever we started creating the organization. And creating the organization, what it did is that it brought calm. Because before the organization, we were a movement, right? We were the dreamers at Texas A&M. We were like stopping to do this, trying to stop that. And once we became an organization stably, and we created committees, and we had a constitution, and we had guidelines, and we started fundraising, and we started like understanding the dynamics of planning and moving forward and looking at the next 6 months and working with student activities and finding grants. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Life changed, completely changed. And what that did is that it introduced me to a network of people, right? The directors of the Memorial Student Center, the directors of International Student Services, the president of the university, financial aid directors. And all of a sudden, those people started shaping me and molding me because they saw that I was trying to help out my community. So as I was having an effect and an impact, other people also noticed me and they also wanted to invest and support me. So it was a mutual impact. Although it's stressful and I get it, it is also very rewarding.
I think Isaac had a question in the chat. Are you able to see it?
Yeah. So Isaac says, what is the best decision you have made throughout your professional career? That's funny. How much time do we have, Kevin?
We usually end around like 7 o'clock, but okay. If we go over a little over, that's also fine.
Let me see if I can share my screen, because that actually I have something that would answer that question. And I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm not going to show it, but then I think that this will really answer. Let me see if y'all are able to hear this. Can you hear that?
When you share your screen, there's going to be, if you could stop sharing real quick, and then when you click share screen, there's going to be a little checkbox in the corner that says share audio.
Nice. Okay. Do you see this? You hear it? You hear it? Okay. All right. So let me set it up, because you asked the question and you said what's one of the best decisions that I made professionally. And this is really funny, but so whenever I graduated with my associate's degree, I saw my mother crying, but it was a very different type of crying. Like it was kind of like like esos llantos de alegría, like tears of joy, like of pride. And I became very addicted to that kind of tears, right? Like I was like, man, like I want to see her cry like that again. So whenever I graduated with the bachelor's, like I loved it, man. Like, because like I've seen my mom cry. But when she's crying and using the same method for a different reason, like it kind of made me feel like, heck yeah. You know what I mean? Like, let's cry, mom. Let's cry of joy. Let's cry of happiness. Like, let's free ourselves. And education allowed me to do that. When I graduated with the master's, oh my God, my mom is a mess. She is excited. And I can't wait to graduate with my PhD, right? Because the PhD people, they get to sit in the very front row. Like my mom is gonna be like, the first ones to see me. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to graduate with my PhD. But I was starting to make that transition, Isaac. I was trying to kind of think about, okay, I'm about to graduate. What would my professional, what would the professional look like? And I said, what do I do after I finish my PhD? So what I did is that I created a business called Dr. Zelaya Educational Consulting, which provides several resources, presentations, conferences, curriculum to school districts. And I have been working with Houston ISD for over 4 years. This video was in 2019, right? But in 2018, a year before this video was taken, I had committed to them that I would be the keynote speaker to their summit. They had a summit over about 500 dreamers. What was crazy is that the event that they had planned a year before also fell on the same day of the PhD graduation at Texas A&M. So I decided to not go to my graduation and instead to go to Houston ISD, where we had the summit, and to actually have my own graduation as my speech. And I think that that's very important because that's where I was able to transition. And who makes you a PhD is the person who puts what is called a hood on you, kind of like a bufanda type of thing. And that at the moment that they put that thing on you is the moment that you become a doctor. So what I did is that I told the person that recruited me to Texas A&M to come to the speech, to the event, and to put my gown because that person supported me. I asked the mentor to come and to put my cap. And I also asked my parents to come and to put on my hood. So that you get a little bit about that decision that I'm very, very, very proud of.
I don't think we can still hear the audio.
It's not working?
No, I don't think so. I
It's not
can't hear
working?
it. Yeah, I can't hear it.
You couldn't hear it?
No.
Let me see again.
Oh, there you go. It's
I am
now.
not Mr. Watson. Thank you for stopping me at that community college.
You hear it?
And thank you for believing in a dreamer. And not only believing in a dreamer, but making that dreamer a reality. Thank you. I am not missing a graduation. My graduation is happening in this moment. My graduation is happening right now. A PhD graduation is happening in this moment because of the support system, because of the mentors, because of the people that believe in you. I promise you that there will be times that you're not even going to have money to be able to buy your next meal, but there will be people that believe in you so much that out of nowhere they will support you. They'll pay your books. They'll help you pay your tuition. They'll help you figure it out. You are not alone, Mrs. O'Quinn, who has been a mentor, who has been someone that has supported me and symbolizes so much for me. May you please put on my cap. Thank you. There's a graduation happening right now. The moment you graduate, you do not graduate alone. You know who's supposed to make you a PhD? Your own faculty. It is the duty of another doctor or another faculty to put what is called a hood on you. But my doctors, my faculty, my professors in life are my mom and my dad. So they get to hood me. So dad and mom, please. Por todas las casas que limpió. You see this man right here? As an electrician, he would bring cables in the back of his truck and he would recycle them, so that I had books so that I had books for my school. Maybe she didn't go to every single one of my parent meetings because she was babysitting or cleaning homes. But because of their sacrifices, I just became a PhD. This symbolism is what makes a doctor. Mami, gracias. Daddy, gracias. La hicimos. La hicimos.
I mean, I think that's my, that's the best decision, to make them proud. to create that impact, to know that every day that I went to class, that every time my head hurt, that every time I felt like I didn't belong and I pushed through, that I got to that moment, right? And that moment, like when my dad goes like this, my dad is my dad doesn't talk, man. But this right here, whenever he goes like this, he goes like, "You got to me, man. You got to my heart, man." And I'm just like, "Yeah," you know what I'm saying? Like my mom loves to talk, but when she goes like, and she's speechless, oh, you know what I'm saying? I love to go against the concept of science and to be able to see how that changes things. So out of the problem came solutions, and out of the solutions now it's a responsibility for that solution to replicate and to continue to have an impact, and that impact for it to be generational. So that's what I'm the most proud about, to be able to use my academics, my professional life, to be able to bring honor and pride to my family and my future communities, my future generations. Let's see, we got maybe like time for maybe one or two more.
Oh, I'll say something. I just want to say that that quote you said about not being alone, that you always have that support system, even if you might feel like, oh, your family doesn't understand, you're first generation, they don't know what you're going through. They're still there for you. You're not alone. And I just really like that. I feel like that I really need that at this moment. And thank you so much for that. And one question I have is, do you have any piece of advice for someone trying to find like their support group or their like mentors, networking, anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Vivian. It's whenever you think about mentorship or whenever you think about networking, this is really what I want to dive into. Okay, I'm gonna give you like if you do this, like I promise you, it's gonna work. You ready? Research. Okay, research. Research the field of networking and research the field of mentorship. Because if you're able to, just like, what's your major? What are you studying?
I'm studying psychology.
Psychology. Imagine if I came at you and I told you, hey, Vivian, like, like in a nutshell, tell me what is psychology. You're gonna be like, boy, like there's so much to tell you about psychology. So what I'm trying to say is that the answer of that question relies in research. For example, if you want to know how to have a great mentor, right? Begin to research. Like what does a mentee look in a great mentor? Who is a great mentor? What are great questions to ask a great mentor? Because the thing about it is that you can't think of mentorship as something that someone is going to give you and they're going to have a microwavable answer and here you go, put it in 30 seconds, now your life is fixed. No, right? These are people you trust. These are people you can honestly share with. But at the same time, the mentors that I'm talking about are people who are figures of authority, right? People who are where almost you want to be, right? Like if you want to be a professor, your mentor should be a professor. But if you want to be a professor of psychology, it's okay to have a mentor who's a professor in engineering because they're both professors. You see what I mean? But if all of a sudden you want to go into the medical field and you're looking for an engineer to mentor you in that concept, so there needs to be a connection between your desires, your needs, and their experience and expertise. And you gotta be able to connect those two because you're not just going into a chatting conversation. You're trying to find direction for your life and ask some very vulnerable questions that if applicable can change the trajectory of your life, right? That's what you're trying to do. Or you can just go to class, right? And just learn. There's a difference between learning and mentoring. That's why I'm saying look into the research of it, because even networking, right? you ask that question to somebody, the first three things are gonna tell you, how do you do great mentor? Oh, make sure you shake somebody's great hands. Make sure you do eye contact and that you're dressed for success. Scratch all of that. What about confidence, right? What about respect, right? What about trusting in yourself? What about timelessness, like being on time? All of those things, if you take care of all of those other things, looking at somebody's in the eyes, it's just gonna be a natural thing because you're confident, right? Being on time is just gonna be a natural thing because you're disciplined. So the same thing goes with networking and mentoring. I can tell you what has worked for me, but I can't summarize 20 years. What you see what I'm saying? Really, really, really connect where you're trying to go to and find an expert in that field to help you. Networking, it's too much. There's too much to it. There's too much to it. But that one thing that I would say is this. That one thing that I would tell you is this. Be real. Okay? Be real. And by being real, that whenever you're looking for a mentor, make sure that that person is real. And by that, this is what I mean. Someone who is responsible for you, to you. Real, R-E-A-L, responsible. Someone who grabs your expectations and brings them higher. Okay, real, brings up your expectations. Someone who keeps you accountable. Real, someone who's real, someone who's gonna look at you and tell you that's not great. Okay, it's gonna keep you accountable, and someone who's gonna push you to be a leader and not a follower. If you can create those forge benchmarks as parameters and say, okay, this is what I'm looking into a mentor, someone who's gonna be responsible, pull up my expectations, can help me stay accountable and push me to be a leader, I think that's a real mentor. So I think that can maybe create some foundation. But remember, I only told you a little bit about a wave of an entire ocean. So there's too much to know.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Let's do one more. If not, then let me share this with you. So let's connect. This is where I'm at, right? So let's connect. Whether it's on LinkedIn, this is also my personal cell phone number. If you're thinking about graduate school, or if you're thinking about any types of opportunities, or if you're thinking about like, oh, how do I sharpen up my LinkedIn, or how do I use this, or how do I use that? Just know that I'm here. Like, I'm here to be a resource. I'm here to be of help. I want to stay connected. So let's connect. Let's connect, and let's make sure that this is also not the only collaboration that we have between first generation Aggies and I, because it'll be great. It'll be great to start thinking about our future, especially whenever we have students coming from, one of the things is that I want to show Texas A&M to students from all over the place. And we're working with high school students in the Valley, in Houston, in San Benito, in Laredo, in different parts. And what's really, really cool is that once things go back to a sense of normalcy, I want them to come to Texas A&M. I want them to see Texas A&M, and I want to expose them to people that look like them, who feel like them, and who have had experiences like them. And what a beautiful thing to be able to collaborate with first generation Aggies, to be able to make sure that the students feel like home in a place that is oftentimes not their home. You see, so that's the idea, right? How do we make it easier for the following generation? So that's what I'm interested in connecting for, in continuing to create an impact in our communities. So, but Kevin, I mean, thank you so much for this opportunity to have been with y'all, to have shared with y'all, and to have opened up a little bit. And I look forward to very soon being with y'all and continuing this conversation.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dr. Zelaya, for taking a part of your time to come out and talk to our organization. We really appreciate it. As you can see, we've been recording the thing so that, like, if people couldn't make it to this meeting, they could always watch it and view it later. And
nice.
I was just about to ask you about how they could connect with you, so they'll be able to have your contact information as well, and I'll go ahead
Nice.
and let them know about that.
Awesome deal. Awesome deal. Pero muchas gracias y un fuerte saludo. You know, it's almost like we have a howdy, but we don't have a bitey. So,
Yeah, no, thank you
but
so
thank you
much.
so much.
Okay. If y'all could just give like a silent round of applause for him. There's like a little emoji on the chat, or if you want to do it with your video on.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Saludos.
Thank you. All right, so we just have a few more announcements in terms of our meeting. We have an upcoming study session at 7 p.m., a social on March 25th at 6 p.m., and our next general meeting is next week, 1 week from now. Oh, wait, no, not next week. Sorry, scratch that. It's in 2 weeks. So on March 30th, we have our next general meeting. We have another guest speaker joining us. Her name is Diana Reina. She is the founder of Pastelitos in Houston. I think they kind of, well, she'll explain it in her when she comes as a guest speaker, but I think they moved locations in Houston for now due to the pandemic. But there was actually, she was actually selling cheesecakes in College Station for a bit before that. And I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of her. She was actually a guest on our podcast episode. So it's going to be really great to see her live because she has a whole bunch of information that she wants to share in terms of like starting a new business and getting your idea out there, and just experiences she learned through along the way. So it's going to be a really great guest speaker to have. We're going to have a little event with the Office of Sustainability for Earth Week. Even though it says Earth Day, it's like actually it's like a whole week of things that's going to be all virtual. So in April, keep an eye out for that. But also our 5K charity race is still going on. If you like sort of unfamiliar with it, just send either one of us a message and we can provide you a link, or if you just type in the chat, we'll send a link to the form of how you could submit it. We're just trying to raise money for a great organization, nonprofit organization in the College Station area, which is Health for All. So you have to donate a minimum of $10 to be in the race. You just fill out your form, fill out some more information on there, and then just submit your time, and we'll send out medals to the people with the top 3 times. So it is going to be a nice little friendly competition between members. If you haven't already signed up, be sure to do so. But yeah.
So yeah, we have shirts now. Shirts can be ordered through the marketplace. The link is right there, but I will put it in the chat. And you can place orders until March 28th at midnight. And then shirts will be shipped individually by the address that you provide. They are $20, and they should arrive around middle of April. We also posted it in the GroupMe and in the social media, so you can find the link in the bio, but like I said, I will put it in the chat. And then if you guys have questions about it, oh yeah, it's right there. You guys can just like ask in the GroupMes if you have any questions about the shirt ordering.
Also, our officer applications close tomorrow. So if you're looking to get some leadership experience, or if you want to get more involved with the organization, there's 3 positions now available. We have historian, we have public relations, we have community service. I won't go through like all descriptions individually. They all could be found on the forms, and it's gonna take me a while to go through each of the roles individually. But all of that information is available on the forms on which the links are located, and the interviews will be conducted during the week of March 28th to April 2nd. So if you get contacted, we would most likely schedule you an interview during that time, unless there's some special circumstance, and then we would have a decision by the following week.
So here are March birthdays. Happy birthday to everyone whose birthday's in March. And if your birthday isn't on here, you could fill out the form and you can ask us for it in the GroupMe.
Where's the form? Because I need to tell you, like, March 28th. I need to
We can put it in the chat.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
All right. Isaac just sent me a message that he was cutting out with his internet.
Hello,
So
can y'all hear me?
Oh, there he goes.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know why Zoom's acting funny right now, but FGA podcast episode 8 is out. It is with Diana Reina. I want to make sure I get her name right. Yeah, Diana Reina. And go ahead, check out the podcast episode. It was really a fun podcast. She has a lot of great energy, and I'm excited to see her informational, or I guess her general meeting, here at the general meeting. I'd recommend to go for sure. She's really uplifting, and it's just a great person to have a conversation with. So if you have any questions about your own personal business you want to start, or if you just want to feel a little bit motivated, I definitely recommend to check out the episode and come to the general meeting on the 30th.
And don't forget to sign in. And remember, we have our own point system when we keep track of members. So even if you're watching this as like a YouTube video, just don't forget to sign in into the sign in and just click the day of the general meeting so we can make sure we calculate your points correctly. But other than that, that's pretty much it. That's all we have for you today. So I hope you guys are doing well. Again, feel free to reach out for it to our group me in case you need to reach out for any of the information we just discussed. You'll be able to watch back this meeting. I want to say the YouTube video should be uploaded later tonight. It just depends on how fast it like renders and uploads and everything. But it should be uploaded by tonight. If not tonight, then tomorrow for sure. And you should be able to view it if you want to like look back on any information that Dr. Zelaya has talked about, or if you want to look back on his connection on how to contact him. I'll have like a little timestamp in the description of when that thing is, so you don't have to like keep looking for it, and you could just like find it just by going to that timestamp, and you could go ahead and connect with him. But thank you for coming out. Our next general meeting is March 30th. Like we said, it's going to be with Diana Reina, and we're looking forward to having her as a guest. And I just want to say one last thank you to Dr. Zelaya for coming out and giving us some words of inspiration during these hard times. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.